pretty well traveled in everything that I'm going to share with you, but as I always say, there's always a new place to go. There's always a place that I want to go back. There's always something that I didn't get to do the one time that I was there. And now, as we all have this pent-up demand to get out and do and go and be, and families and friends, and I think we've all learned not to put it off. We were just talking earlier about Peru. Make sure you do those adventurous destinations maybe first, and put some of the easier destinations sort of toward the end. But don't wait. Not only the pent-up demand, but everyone moving their travel from 2020 to 2021, 2021 now into 2022 and beyond. But we have really opened up. We are seeing levels that we saw to some destinations that we saw in 2019. Some of you, I was just saying, my role with the company is to work with travel advisors, travel agencies like Departure Lounge, to educate them on who we are, what we do, new hotels that we open, new promotions that we've got, and just sort of go through the different products, because you can talk about what it's like to barge in France, or what does it mean to take the Venice Simplon Orient Express from Paris to Istanbul, so that when you come in to meet with someone from Departure Lounge, you're speaking with someone who knows about it. And I'm always happy, I mentioned this earlier to someone, to get on a Zoom call, or if I'm in Austin, come and meet with you too, to share a little bit more. We have been in business since 1983. The original name of the company was Orient Express. Long story, might have changed the name of the company. But we started out with the Venice Simplon Orient Express train. And several years ago, as the portfolio grew, the board of directors said, well, to a consumer, to our travelers, Orient Express means train, book, movie. It doesn't mean everything that we do. So they just simply changed the name of the company. So some of you might not be as familiar with us, but we really have been setting a trend for travel from the very beginning. Not only with trains, but with unusual modes of transportation, like our barges in France. They're officially called canal cruisers, but in the travel industry we call it barging. But I'll show you that it's not just getting on a barge that sails through the Suez Canal or up to Lake Ontario. It's a little bit different than that in France. The Venice Simplon Orient Express, again, did launch in 1983, and that is still our flagship, along with the Cipriani Hotel in Venice, which was the first hotel that we had. Mr. Sherwood, Jim Sherwood, who founded the company, had been wondering, he was sort of a bon vivant and a big traveler, and he had a big company called Sea Containers and Seacon, and they're now no longer in business, but that's really how he made his money, and a lot of it. And he had a big yacht, and he was traveling around the world, and he started buying hotels. He wondered what had happened to the Venice Simplon Orient Express train, and in the late 70s found several of the original carriages up for auction in Monte Carlo, just in really dilapidated condition, and he bought them. And he didn't just renovate them, he restored them to the grandeur and glory of the heyday of the golden age of travel in the 20s and 30s. So that again has been our flagship. About 25 years ago, we started going into Myanmar. Mr. Sherwood had been into Myanmar and saw such a fascinating destination that there were no hotels that he would take guests to. So he did put a big barge that holds 83, a river cruiser, on one of his sea container ships, sailed it through the Suez Canal and up in the Yangon, and built his own floating hotel. Now, sadly, Myanmar is having a very, very difficult time right now. We're still employing all of our staff on board the boat. We have a community clinic in Bagan that the doctor on board, and the staff is still operating, and we're just hoping that that settles down sooner than later. But we have been doing a lot with the communities, not just in Myanmar, but all over where we have a hotel. We're very involved in sustainability. That's one of the buzzwords of today for so many people. But community projects that we've had for many, many years before it did become fashionable. Mr. Sherwood saw an opportunity in Peru in 1999 after the Shining Path was sort of routed out of the country. This terrorist group that had taken over. No one was going into, a lot, not into South America. And as Peru opened up, Mr. Sherwood started buying hotels, and today we are one of the biggest, have the biggest presence in Peru with hotels and 2 trains that we operate. In fact, we're the only one with a lodge up the ruins of Machu Picchu. So today, we've got 32 hotels, 3 luxury tenant safari lodges, barges in France, river cruiser in Myanmar, and 6 trains around the world, from the Venice Simplon Orient Express to the Royal Scotsman in Scotland, and the 2 trains in Peru. But as far as hotels go, this is really true. We believe that the soul of a building, whether it's a hotel or the train, really must shine through. So if you walk into one of our hotels or on a train, you know exactly where you are. You don't walk into Mexico and think, well, I can be anywhere in the world. We have 2 hotels, one of which is this one, Villa San Michele, with a facade that was designed by Michelangelo. So as you're walking into the villa, you're walking into an old monastery. We feel that, well, we don't buy hotels, but we don't build them, we buy them. We buy them for their location. That's right, you guys were just there, weren't you? I forgot about that.
Well,
their location, cultural significance, historical significance, and nothing like location. This is Hotel Las Cataratas at Iguazu Falls on the border of Brazil and Argentina. And before the park opens at 6 o'clock in the morning, you can get up, walk across the front lawn, and walk down on the walkways out to the middle of the river where the falls drop. It's called the Devil's Throat, where the Iguazu River falls and all of the water thunders up, and you're standing there with your coffee and your iPhone and your camera alone. And that is, you can only do that with Hotel Las Cataratas. So that gives you an idea of locations. I'm sorry, I'm having a bit of a problem. Really, could we maybe move the Virtuoso sign out in front? Yeah, maybe that's holding it up. Locations, 3 tenant safari lodges in Botswana. So that's our camp, and we've got potted hippos in the front that snort and roll and come out of the water at night and go in between the tents. But certainly we've seen in the last few years, all of you looking for more privacy, exclusivity, wanting to travel just with friends, just with family, not get out with the hordes and the masses, not that there have been that many hordes of masses. But we have sort of a campaign that we've done for the last 18 months called Exclusive Places. And it talks about the villas that we have. This is one of the villas at La Samana, or privatizing the rail carriage, or taking one of our barges in France as a floating villa. That's really what they're like, 4, 6, 8, 12 guests. Taking over a private floor with our hotel in London, the Cadogan Hotel. So we've always had exclusive places, we've just never pulled them together in one place. So if you're interested in taking a look at some different options that we've got in various places, whether in Peru or in more familiar places like North America and Caribbean, we can certainly let you know. The place that we don't have as huge a presence as we do in Peru or in Italy is the United States. 2 on each coast, Charleston Place in Charleston, El Encanto in Santa Barbara, 2 in the Caribbean and 2 in Mexico. But I do want to mention Santa Barbara because this hotel has taken off in the last year, and our hotel is called El Encanto, the Enchantment. And we're up in the hills by the Mission with these sweeping views over the Channel Islands in the distance. We're on 8 acres of gardens, and all of the cottages are in Spanish colonial craftsman-style cottages. They have various accommodation in them, so easy to take over for a family or a group of friends. But you have a lot of outdoor space with al fresco dining, and we put lounge chairs all around the pool, down on the lawns, and so it's a really good place if you do want to stay closer to home. And Santa Barbara, one of the fun things there is that out on our terrace with these beautiful, you have the carpeted lights of Santa Barbara at your feet at night, and you can see all the way at dusk out to the Channel Islands, and it really is stunning. But the open terrace restaurant with Montecito and Santa Barbara, you never know who you're going to see on the terrace, so that's always a lot of fun in El Encanto. And then over on the other coast, America's favorite city is Charleston, where we have Charleston Place Hotel, and we're down in the historic district of Charleston. If you've never been, put it on your list. I mean, there's a Revolutionary War, Civil War history, plantations, old homes, gardens, shopping, incredible dining. We have oyster tours that will take you out on boats to the place, the guys that have the oyster farms that we buy for our Charleston grill. And at the end of the day, we'll do an oyster grill for you on the beach. So a lot of different activities in Charleston. It has been voted America's favorite city for many years, and we are right in the middle of the historic district. So this has been a real opportunity for all of us, I think, over the last 18 months, is to really get out and see the American West, see some of these big cities. We've all been going to Europe and down to South America and a lot of different places, but it's been an opportunity to explore places closer to home. So I can highly recommend Santa Barbara as well as Charleston. Moving down to Mexico, and let me also mention, over the holiday season, all of these hotels have big programs for kids, for families, for couples, for wine tasting in Santa Barbara, which is just in the middle of the best area of California for Pinot Noirs. There's a lot of golfing, a lot of different things to do on the water. If you go down to the Caribbean, La Sabana on the island of St. Martin, we have these beautiful villas that you see up on the cliffs, 3 and 4 bedroom villas. There are 1 or 2 that are still available over the holiday season with little wraparound swimming pools. And the beauty of La Sabana and these villas is that you have the services of a hotel, but also the services of a villa. And then just across the bay, about 20 minutes from La Sabana, is Capchaluca on the island of Anguilla, which is a mile-long beach. And all of those whitewashed villas that you see are sort of like El Encanto, with a variety of accommodation, from pool suites with private pools to a villa that might have junior suites and double rooms, and some connecting and some not. So a lot to do on Anguilla as well. Anguilla has become the dining destination of the Caribbean. So that's something that I always find interesting. In Mexico, we have one on the Riviera Maya in Roma. She's closed right now for complete renovation, but what we do have open is Casa de Sierra Nevada in San Miguel de Allende. I'm sure a lot in this room, many of you have been to San Miguel, which is old colonial Mexico, charming beyond those cobblestone streets and beautiful haciendas along the cobblestone streets and covered with bougainvillea and flowers, and you think, wow, this looks great, but what is this? And you open the door and it leads into this massive villa that goes down, for a couple of blocks with all the accommodation inside. So these haciendas, it's a little bit of a different side of Mexico. San Miguel has been an artist community for decades, so a lot to do there. Cooking school that we have with the hotel, and just a lot to do in and around it. That's a different vibe of Mexico versus just going to the beach. And we're just a block and a half from the plaza, which is the hub of San Miguel, not only for locals, but for tourism as well. This is our presidential suite with a beautiful view over the cathedral. So many non-stops, out of Houston and Dallas as well. In South America, apart from Brazil and Iguazu Falls and Copacabana Palace in Rio, so many of our hotels are the iconic hotels that you've heard about for many years. As you can see, we have a huge presence in Peru, from Miraflores Park in Lima, that will take you from sea level all the way up to flying up to Cusco, where we have the other hotel that was an old monastery, Belmond Hotel Monasterio, and right next door to it with a chapel in between is Palacio Nazarenus, which was originally a convent. So talk about history, talk about location, talk about culture and heritage. I love the photograph on the right-hand side because you can still see the Incan foundations that you find throughout Cusco. Because when the Spanish went in the 1500s, searching for silver and gold, and they went in and they were going to, of course, civilize the Incas. And the Incas had built these cities on these foundations, knowing how to build, in and around the Andes. And the Spanish put up all of these beautiful cathedrals and buildings, and that was great until an earthquake came along. And all of their buildings fell, but what didn't fall were the Incan foundations, because they were the ones that knew how to build. So again, lots of history. Cusco is consistently voted one of the favorite cities in South America, and I would vote for that as well. We have two trains here, the Hiram Bingham, named after the gentleman who found again, discovered again, the ruins at Machu Picchu, I think in 1911, 1914. So we named the train Hiram Bingham. It's just 3.5-hour journey from Cusco, which is at 11,000 feet, down to Machu Picchu. Most people think you're going up to Machu Picchu, but you're actually going down from 11,000 to about 7,800 feet. And we've got a hotel just in the middle of those, so it's easy to acclimatize at about 8,500 or 9,000 feet before you head back up to Cusco. We also have a beautiful sleeper train, the Andean Explorer, which will take you from Cusco down to the banks of Lake Titicaca to Puno, and then overnight again to Arequipa, and it opens up that whole southern corridor of Peru if you want to do something besides Cusco and down to Machu Picchu. It's one of the highest train journeys anywhere in the world. It was beautifully done. Nobody builds trains like we do, as you'll see in a moment with the Royal Scotsman and the Venice Simplon Orient Express. So the Andean Explorer has 3 categories of cabin, all private ensuite bathrooms, 2 beautiful dining cars, Peruvian fabrics and weavings and hand-tooled leather. Again, as I mentioned earlier, you get on board this train and you know you're not in Scotland. You know that you are in Peru. You're not on board the Venice Simplon Orient Express. You are enveloped in everything that Peru has to offer. We are as heavily presenced in Italy, which I'd like to just share a lot of the new activities that we've got called curiosity circles that will take you off the beaten path within the various cities that we're in. The Cipriani, which is a hugely famous hotel. It was our first hotel, and we are on Giudecca Island. We're not just a hotel, we're a resort. And we're about 4 minutes and 58 seconds. We finally timed it across the lagoon and the Grand Canal with our own launches with big Hotel Cipriani along the side, so you can do all your sightseeing in Venice, all your shopping, and then be far from the madding crowds by taking launch back over to Hotel Cipriani. It is truly a gorgeous hotel with a vineyard, our own little winery, gardens that are called the Casanova Gardens because it was rumored that Casanova used to take his lovers over to Giudecca Island and to the gardens at, not before the Cipriani was there, and for midnight trysts. So it's called the Casanova Gardens, and really just beautiful. We have so many gardens surrounding our hotels from 8 and 9 acres, from Cipriani to Alencanto to Reed's Palace on the island of Madeira. This is also a place, that pool and the pool bar. Yes?
Wasn't there a famous celebrity just there, J-Lo and Ben Affleck?
Yes, and Matt Damon, and Venice Film Festival. And the hotel will never really share anything with us because we have a lot of celebrities and famous people that do stay with us, and they like the Cipriani because of the privacy. So we only know when it shows up in People Max. We try and get the list every year, but the hotel won't come forth with it. But yes, we have not quite as infamous as J-Lo and Affleck. Some of the things we're doing, not only do we have a vineyard, we've got beehives and excursions to the oldest pharmacy in all of Italy. This is part of our curiosity circles. I think everybody's been in a gondola, but have you ever tried to row one yourself? I don't know that it's called rowing, but we can take you out and let you have a try at that, or we can take you to the craftsmen who build the gondolas and have for centuries. You know, it's been in the same family. So again, part of these curiosity circles that we're doing. Villa San Michele, as I mentioned, with the facade designed by Michelangelo. It's in the hills of Fiesole, overlooking the Arno Valley, just 15 minutes from the city center of Florence. So this is sort of the same concept as the Cipriani, in that you could go and do all of your sightseeing down in Florence. And look at this view during the day, and take our little shuttle that leaves from Piazza Repubblica, and 15 minutes later, you're back up in the hills of Fiesole, perhaps dining or doing one of our cooking classes. We have a big cooking school downstairs. Part of the curiosity circles here, these are really fun. Taking you to a hat maker that has been doing millinery for centuries in the same families. A shoemaker. You know, you always hear about these Italian-made shoes, custom-made shoes. We can take you right there. An eyeglasses, an optical eyeglass maker that's been in the same family as well, so lots of fun. But here is the view over the Arno Valley from Villa San Michele, just stunning. Again, culture, history, location is what we've always looked for. Just an hour and 15 minutes is Tuscany, Castello di Casale, which is on 4,000 acres. In the middle of Tuscany, with that great Tuscan field, not only in the rooms, but all of the public spaces as well. Curiosity circles among these 4,000 acres, where we buy all of the cheese for the hotel. We can take you down to the farmhouse and set up a great fun luncheon, or take you out on to our 4,000 acres on a bit of a safari, not quite like Africa, but to really go and see what's in all of the forests around. We can do private lunches and truffle hunting, lots of different things on 4,000 acres. So Villa San Michele and Castello di Casale are really good combinations. If you want a little bit of glamour, the Italian Riviera, Splendido and Splendido Mare, which is a place to see and be seen in July and August, Portofino. But we have a little chic guest house just on the Piazzetta, and then the Grand Dame, the Hotel Splendido, up on the hill with these fabulous views. A private beach that we have access to for you as well as on the Amalfi Coast in Caruso. We're up at the top of Ravello with these stunning views over the Amalfi, and that 15th century arch that you see, that's actually our pool restaurant. There's a big pizza oven back there. And then this gorgeous infinity pool, which is constantly talked about as one of the swimming pools, not just in Italy, but in Europe. You feel like in the morning you're going to swim off into the Amalfi Coast. So you can go to the private beach that we have here, or you can just have cocktails floating in the pool. And the waiters do this. This wasn't just staged. So we have a lot of weddings at Caruso too, and at Villa San Michele. Pompeii is one of the biggest destinations in and around the Amalfi Coast and Ravello. For Italy, I want to end in Sicily, where we've got 2 hotels, but I love Sicily. These are really our newest hotels, well, besides Castello di Casale. But Sicily, when we opened these 2 hotels in Sicily, or bought them, renovated them, and restored them and reopened them, we all sort of rediscovered Sicily, which is, you know, the island that's just off of the boot of Italy. And what's so interesting about Sicily is that it was the crossroads of civilizations for centuries. You know, the Phoenicians, the Egyptians, the Arabs, the Italians, there's another one that I can't think of right now, but they all would port or pass by Sicily. So what you find throughout this island is a mix of architecture, a mix of languages, a mix of cultures. And that's one of the things that makes it so interesting. Down in the Valley of the Temples, you feel like you're in the middle of Greece. And you're not. That was the other one. The Greeks were sailing in and out. And this still happens today. This is Taormina. Some of you may have stopped at Taormina on a cruise. Grand Hotel Tomeo is right under the logo. And that hotel not only shares a wall with a 3,000-year-old Greek theater, but from the front of the hotel, we look out at Mount Etna. So culture, history, location, I mean, look at that. It's just really, really stunning. And then down on the water, we have Villa Sant'Andrea, so it really depends on sort of what kind of vibe you want. But there's so many different things to do here. You can climb up to Mount Etna, you can ski Mount Etna, you can go to a farmhouse, an organic farm from a family that has had it for, again, centuries, where we buy a lot of our blood oranges for not only for the kitchen, but cocktails, and we have private access to this. But it's a different slice of Italy, and really a nice way to round out something if you're going back, to Venice and to Florence and to Rome. I want to move up to France and just briefly show you what barging is like. There are over 3,000 miles of navigable waterways in France with the rivers and the canals. The canals are really probably concentrated in the Burgundy area and in the Champagne region. So these barges, we have 7, and they hold 4, 6, 8, or 12 guests. Primarily for charter only, so you would get your own family or your own little group. 6 nights, 7 days, in and out of Paris, and we'll pick you up in Paris or pick you up in Lyon and take you down to meet the barge. These canals are on a lock system, so there are locks every sort of quarter mile, every 2 miles, sort of depending on where you are. These are floating villas. You have a chef on board, you have a captain and a matelot on board, you have the cabin stewards and stewardesses, the cabin attendants on board. Everything is included. You also have a chef. So these can be as casual or as elegant as you would like them to be. 4 of them have swimming pools on board. So they can be as relaxing or as active as you'd like them to be. We have itineraries that we've used for many years, but if you have a particular wine focus, we can bring on wine experts and get access to a lot of private vineyards. We buy a lot of wine for these barges from local small vineyards that don't sell on the market. But we also have a week that's called the Week of the Grand Cru Wines, La Semaine de Grand Cru. For those of you who are into French wines, there are only 33 of them. And during this particular week, they're the best wines in France, and the French will, of course, tell you that they're the best wines in the world. But during this week of the Grand Cru wines, it's an opportunity to either taste them, have them with dinner, go to the vineyard, so it's a rare opportunity. You can cook with the chef, you can go to the market with the chef. It really becomes sort of your family boat for the week, whether you're with your family or you're with your friends. And beautiful dining, casual during the day, elegant during the evening. We moor the barge at night so you can go off into the villages. You can take the bicycles on and off of the locks. So again, I'll show you a couple of the 8 passengers with the swimming pools on board. Now you can't swim laps, but you can float around with your champagne or your coffee in the evening, or your champagne in the morning if you so desire, or your coffee in the morning. We get on and off for sightseeing. A little minivan, generally a Mercedes Sprinter, follows the barge along, and we do vineyard visits. We go off to markets. We go to chateaus in the region. It really just depends on what happens to be in the area. So these are really nice because they are 6 nights, 7 days. You can put nights on the front end in Paris or on the back end and sort of make it a weekend to weekend trip. And again, it is very, very private. So we can tailor sightseeing and all sorts of activities. This is one of our newer ones with a little bit more contemporary look to it. So again, as active or as relaxing as you would like it to be. So I'll end with two of our trains, the Royal Scotsman in and out of Edinburgh. This is a 40-passenger luxury country house hotel on rails. It operates April to October. 2, 3, 4 nights, which can then turn into 5 or 7 nights. It is too fully inclusive. Fine dining, fine wines, premiums. I think there are 53 Scotch malt whiskeys on board. You will learn to love whiskey, even if you think you don't love whiskey. And there's lots of, I sound like we drink everywhere, but there are other things to drink as well. But certainly in France and in many of these areas, they're known for something in particular. But this one is really fun because once we meet you at the Balmoral Hotel and you go down the escalator with the group, a piper will pick you up at the bottom of the escalator and pipe you through the station, and all of a sudden there's the Royal Scotsman lined up on the platform. So all of the cabins have private ensuite bathrooms. There are 2 dining cars on board. Beautiful dining, as you can see here. On a 4-night journey, we have sort of one formal evening, but cocktail attire and just a jacket and tie are certainly appropriate. Then that gives you an idea of the cabin. This train also has a little spa on board, and it's really fun to get a massage as the train is moving. So we do 1 or 2 sightseeing excursions during the day off to, this is Eilean Castle, or you might go to a distillery or take you out on a boat at Clockton. We stop on a 4-night journey at Rothenburgus Estate, and we spend the day there. This has been in the same family for centuries, and we do play pigeon shooting or fly fishing or hiking, lots of different things. And then we stable the train at night in a rail yard next to a little village, and we bring entertainment on board. And the 2 brothers on the right that fiddle, they don't play the violin, they fiddle. And on this beautiful night, after everybody's finished with dinner and coffee and maybe a lot of a little wine and whiskey, we take on, the staff takes everybody out onto the platform, and the brothers who fiddle come out, and we teach everybody Scottish reels and dance under the stars. And this is one of the formal evenings, so all of the staff is in kilts, so it makes it a lot of fun. But I will end with the Venice Simplon Orient Express, the train of kings and the king of trains. As I mentioned, we launched this in 1982 after Mr. Sherwood had found those carriages. And it went from dilapidated to finding other carriages. And again, when you walk into a rail station and you see this train lined up and you step on board, it's a step back into the golden age of travel, the heyday of train travel in the 20s and the 30s. We crisscross Europe. Most of the journeys are just overnight. The most frequent journey is Venice to Paris or Paris to Venice, 24 to 30 hours. This train does not stop for sightseeing on the overnight journeys. The train itself is the destination. Twice a year we do the historic journey of the Venice Simplon Orient Express from Paris all the way to Istanbul. And that is 5 nights, so it's train, hotel, train. And we do sightseeing on those hotel nights, and we take half of the complement. This train will hold average about 150. We brought that down to about 90 this year. This is one of my favorite slides because on the left-hand side, that shows you the route. We don't take the fastest routes, we take the most scenic routes. And on the right-hand side, that is the stop on the Austrian border as we're changing engines, and we're there for about 30 minutes to an hour, just depending. And this is just right before dinner. And everyone can get off, take beautiful photographs of the snow-capped Alps, just look around. It's a wonderful photo op because the cabin stewards, as you see in their blue uniforms, will stand outside, and this woman was getting off in her heels and her long gown. Now, you don't have to take a ball gown. Again, cocktail attire, jacket and tie, perfectly appropriate. But a lot of people have dreamed of being on the Venice Simplon Orient Express for many years, and they do take long gowns and tuxedos if they so desire. So this was really a fun, beautiful photograph that gives you an idea of those vintage rail carriages. You know, I always say that it's just stunning, the level of cuisine that will come out of a rail car kitchen. So not only the Royal Scotsman, but the Venice Simplon Orient Express and the Andean Explorer is fine dining. Now the trains in Peru are going to be a little bit more casual than these trains. Let me give you an idea of the cabins. All of the original burled wood and whiteage racks and light fixtures, and there are 3 different cabins. There's one that has the upper and lower beds, as you see on the right, and a little closet with a wash basin in it, hot and cold running water and electricity. That you can make it a cabin suite as well, where the 2 cabins connect, so no one has to sleep in the top bunk. But you can do that. Again, this is the original train. But in 2018 and now in 2021, we redid 2 carriages and took 9 cabins and made them into 3 grand suites per carriage. So it's a total this year of 6 grand suites with incredible detail. Not only the beautiful marquetry, but the tile in the bathrooms, the family that has done tiling throughout France for years redid the tile in the Paris Opera House, and some of the original tile in the Opera House did the bathrooms, the ensuite bathrooms in these particular cabins. So they're all named after our main destinations: Paris, Istanbul, Bucharest, Vienna, Budapest. So that is the Venice Simplon Orient Express, and that operates from March to November. But I'll leave you, before my little video, with a story about car 3309, which is still in the rake, R-A-K-E. That's what the lineup of the train is called, the rake of the train. So car 3309 in 1926 was part of the original train, and this was when the train operated year-round. And it was all of a sudden the Venice Simplon Orient Express was stuck 83 kilometers outside of Istanbul in the snow. So the train was there for a few days, and the morning following, there was a young woman in a restaurant having breakfast, drinking her coffee, opened up the newspaper to read about the Venice Simplon Orient Express stuck in the snow. And that young woman was Agatha Christie. And that's where she got the idea for the book, Murder on the Orient Express. So this carriage with that beautiful inlaid marquetry is at the end of the carriage. As you go into another one, is still part of the train. So I'll leave you with this.